The wind that scraped across the rooftops of King's Landing began its evening descent into the Dragonpit long before the city bells tolled vespers. It arrived first as a salty whisper off Blackwater Bay, gliding over red-tiled eaves and soot-smudged chimneys, gathering the scents of river mud, horse sweat, and distant pepper fires until it reached the broken dome where dragons had once been chained. There, the wind found a million flickering torches and the soft jangle of banners brushing stone, and it discovered that nightfall was being held at bay by expectation alone. Within the crumbling amphitheater, a hush had settled, vast enough to swallow thoughts. 7,000 souls, lords in polished steel, sellswords with mismatched greaves, septas in bleached linen, fishwives still carrying the tang of the docks, all waited, pressed shoulder to shoulder, upon weather-worn tiers. Their breaths made faint clouds beneath the open sky, for an early spring chill clung stubbornly to the air. They looked toward the great platform hastily raised from oak planks and gilded nails where a single iron brazier roared, its flames licking a new standard that cracked like thunder whenever the wind kicked east. The banner was black as raven feathers, and upon it gleamed a three-headed dragon wrought in silver thread. Some whispered that it was an omen, the old colors inverted, ice upon fire. Others, that the banner was a herald of doom, for dragons stitched in pallid thread recalled the ashen beasts of Valeria's death. Yet most stared simply because the man who would soon stand beneath that sigil had been neither dragon nor wolf in their minds, but something uncomfortably between. Below the stands, beneath an archway sagging under grasses and vines, Sir Davos Seaworth pulled the fur-lined collar of his cloak close and studied the impossibly young face before him. He searched it for fear and found none, only the steady calm that had earned men's loyalty in frozen watchposts and on snow-slick fields. The torchlight painted a gold edge on Jon Snow's cheekbones, making him look almost regal even in plain leathers. Around them, the clatter of armor and whispered prayers formed a cocoon of sound where hesitation might fester. Yet in Jon's gray eyes lingered only a distant sorrow, as though he were watching someone else's coronation and not his own. "It isn't too late to say the word," Davos murmured, leaning in. "A sail waits in the harbor. We could be halfway to White Harbor by dawn." Jon's lips twitched, a memory of a smile rather than the thing itself. "And leave you to face Daenerys alone. I faced Stormlord Selsails and worse. A shivering queen can't daunt me, lad." Davos brushed the hilt of the short sword at his side. "But queens have long memories. If this goes ill, it won't." The certainty sat heavy between them. Jon did not blink. He had carried heavier truths. A bastard's name that had been both shield and chain. Vows to a brotherhood that had consumed his youth. The weight of death and cold behind the wall. Tonight was but one more burden, though of a different shape. He glanced to where Ghost prowled in the half-dark, fur pale as fresh-fallen snow, eyes burning red beneath the brazier's glow. The dire wolf's presence alone seemed to hold back the eddies of unease rolling through the gathered soldiers. A sudden trumpet call echoed from the pit's rim, scattering crows into the deepening dusk. Davos tightened his grip upon Jon's shoulder. "They're signaling. Gods be good." Jon exhaled. "They've been good before," he answered quietly, in their fashion. A tilt of his head invited the Onion Knight to follow. Together, they stepped from the archway into the wide floor of the Dragonpit, where their boot heels rang hollow on flagstones cracked by centuries of neglect. Every eye turned toward them, some wide with curiosity, others gleaming sharp with calculation. In each face, Jon saw an unspoken question. Wolf or dragon, ice or fire, king or pawn? Ahead, Tyrion Lannister waited upon the platform edge, cloak trimmed in black ermine. His mismatched eyes roved the stands and the galleries aloft, measuring shifting loyalties with a merchant's precision. He waved Jon forward, two fingers dancing quick as a conjurer's. "Faster," he hissed as Jon drew near. Before they recall old allegiances and newer grudges, Jon mounted the first step. "Has the queen arrived?" "Any moment," Tyrion replied, mouth twisting. "I'm not certain if she will enter astride Drogon or merely let him glide overhead for effect. Either would do, but one might char half the audience by accident." He raised his brows. "Try to look appreciative should the worst occur." Jon nearly smiled again but felt the weight of those watching, so he ascended silently to the dais. A carved chair waited at its center, neither the Iron Throne nor any copy, but something new, whitewashed weirwood banded in rings of black iron. Its back flared like unfolding wings, elegant yet unassuming. Jon stopped before it. The weirwood surface gleamed faintly, catching torchlight like moonlit skin. He reached a hand to touch it, but paused, remembering how old Nan spoke of weirwood faces seeing all. Tonight he could abide no more witnesses. From the high tier across the pit, the Lord of the Reach lifted his staff, ringed by minor bannermen still muddy from weeks on the march. Elsewhere, bronze icons of the Vale glinted amid steel helms. Not a single sigil of the North flew, at Jon's own insistence, and yet, he sensed the presence of his sister. Sansa hid behind one of those curtained boxes, with little more than a slim veil to conceal her hair. She had sworn to remain unseen, to give his claim the appearance of wider support, rather than stark ambition. But Jon felt her gaze like chill rain on his skin, and in that secret pressure found strength. Clouds blotted the moon, and with them a hush deeper than before fell upon the pit. Then a roar rent the dark, an inhuman, rolling thunder that vibrated stone and bone alike. Drogon's silhouette descended from the black canopy, wings beating slow and inexorable. Firelight danced crimson upon scale and talon as the great dragon alighted upon the rim. Dust spiraled from shattered arches. Soldiers stumbled as loose stones rattled down the tiers. Drogon's head lowered, molten eyes glaring toward the platform, as though to judge the ceremony worthy of his shadow. His growl settled into a rasping rumble that never quite faded, and Daenerys Targaryen emerged beneath his wing. Her cloak streamed behind her like a banner of smoldering embers. Every stride cracked cinders from the torchlit ground. In the crook of her arm, she carried a circlet rod of Valyrian steel, filigreed with rubies glowing like banked coals. Her face, pale, grave, resolute, gave no hint of the storms that battered her heart. Yet Tyrion, standing to greet her, saw the tremor in her left hand, and understood that she felt the knife's edge of this decision as keenly as Jon. The dwarf bowed deeply, offering no counsel now. All counsel had been given. Daenerys climbed the dais with deliberate calm. She stopped opposite Jon and regarded him across the veiled brazier. The fire between them spat and crackled. Sparks leapt up, dying midair. For an instant, theirs were the only eyes in all the realm. Hers violet, reflecting flame. His gray, reflecting night. The crowd seemed to bend toward that narrow space, to vanish into silence. You know what it means, she said, voice low but carrying. To wear a crown forged in dragon's fire. Jon nodded. I know what it means to be bound by duty. Duty is not always obedience. It is when lives depend on obedience. And so you would be a king of vows. I would be a king of mercy. A shadow flitted across her gaze. Mercy can be a blade as sharp as justice, if wielded without restraint. She lifted the circlet. But if you temper mercy with truth, with faith, with the memory of ice and fire both, perhaps you might succeed where my forebears failed. Jon inhaled, tasting ash upon cold air. Perhaps, he echoed. Or perhaps the cost will be the same, and only the names change. Her shoulders softened, as if she might say more. But her gaze drifted past him then, toward the platform's edge where a row of priests awaited. One of the Faith, one of the Red Temple, one from the Weeping Sept of Lys. Diversity meant legitimacy, though none here could decide which gods now favored Westeros. Jon felt the weight of this multitude. He wished for simpler truths. A wall of ice, duty clear as sunrise. Yet this was the road he had chosen, or that had chosen him. Daenerys stepped aside. Tyrion produced a parchment scroll, voice ringing through the amphitheater, declaring lineage and names older than most houses. Aegon, son of Rhaegar, son of Aerys, son of Jaehaerys. Each name sounded like a tolling bell, heavy with prophecy and blood. When Tyrion finished, he knelt, extending the scroll to Daenerys. She did not unroll it. She merely set it at Jon's feet, as though all written oaths now lay beneath him. The Faith Septon took one slow step forward, hands folded in sleeves of celadon wool. "Will you, born of dragon seed, accept the crown of Aegon the Conqueror, and in accepting bear the burden of realm and folk?" Jon turned so every corner of the pit might see his face. "I will. Will you seek the good of the realm before your own? Keep peace where possible. Wage war only where necessary. Render justice swift but fair. And remember always the least and lowliest of your subjects." "I will." The Red Priestess, Melanie of Volantis, flame-robed successor to the fallen, raised her palms, showing a scarlet glow of coals, still smoldering in her flesh. "Do you promise to honor the Lord of Light, who delivered you from death, even as you honor the seven and the old gods of your forebears?" Jon's throat tightened. "I promise to walk in light, though I belong to no single god." Whispers rippled, but no one shouted dissent. These were times of miracles and monsters. Perhaps a king who served many gods might bridge old ruptures. Melanie bowed, satisfied. Now Daenerys approached, circlet held high in both hands. Drogon's eyes glittered. Ghost growled, low and unsettling, yet remained beside the arch. Jon knelt upon one knee, and in that instant, silence fell so complete that the crack of far-off torches seemed thunderous. The crown hovered above his brow. "By blood and by fire," Daenerys said, the words trembling but sure. "By ice endured and wars won, I crown you Aegon of House Targaryen, sixth of his name, King of the Andals and the Rhoynar and the First Men, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms, Protector of the Realm." She lowered the circlet. Metal kissed Jon's stark hair. The rubies flared brilliantly, as if dragonfire pulsed within them, and the crowd drew breath as one. When Jon rose, the wind gusted, whipping his cloak into wings of night. A single heartbeat stretched, then two, before a voice from the stands cried, "Long live the king!" Another answered, "Aegon Targaryen," and then the pit erupted, cheers tumbling like boulders down canyon walls. Horns blaring, swords ringing against shields in a cacophony that might have shaken the Red Keep's foundations had it stood yet undamaged. Jon felt the surge wash over him, a sea whose tide he was powerless to halt. Yet standing in that roar, he did not lift his arms or bask in it. He searched for the faces that would anchor him. Davos at the foot of the dais, eyes glistening with pride. Tyrion wiping sweat from his brow in weary triumph. And at last, across the sea of color and clamor, he caught a shimmer of red hair in a curtained box. Sansa's eyes met his, blue as a winter sky, steady and shining. She did not smile, but her nod was approval enough. "Your Grace," Tyrion said close by, pitching his voice for Jon alone, "best wave before they decide you're made of marble." Jon gave a faint shake of his head. "This isn't a spectacle." "Everything is a spectacle," Tyrion replied, "but it needn't be shallow. Show them the man as well as the legend." "If they knew the man," Jon murmured, "they would not cheer so loud. Perhaps, or perhaps they would cheer louder." Jon raised one hand, just slightly, palm outward in a gesture half blessing, half plea. The applause did not cease, but it tempered, rolling softer like surf retreating from shore. He waited until he could speak without shouting. "I accept this crown because a realm divided cannot survive the storms to come," he began, voice echoing. "You hail me King of Seven Kingdoms, yet these kingdoms are severed by fear, by famine, by ambition. The crown alone cannot mend them. Only justice, mercy, and truth can." He paused, feeling every gaze. "If I fail to serve those, I invite you to cast me down, for then I will have crowned only myself." He said no more. The brazier's flames snapped high, scattering sparks upward, as if the sky itself flung gold upon him. Drogon shifted upon the rim, wings rustling like thunderclouds. Ghost trotted forward, seating himself beside the dais with tail curled primly about his paws. A pale sentinel born of northern snows, standing guard over Dragonfire. The sight held the throng rapt. Ice and fire, wolf and dragon, poised in fragile accord. Daenerys stepped to Jon's side. Her eyes shone with something that might have been pride, might have been sorrow, or perhaps a mingling of both. She lifted her chin. "The king has spoken," she called. "Let those who would honor his reign gather tomorrow upon the hill of Baelor, where we shall lay plans to heal this city and this realm. Let those who came only to see a spectacle depart in peace." The command drifted down, gentle yet ironclad. Guards opened arched exits. The crowd began to stream out in eddies and currents, torches bobbing like fireflies in dusk. Still, many lingered, reluctant to let the sight fade. The white wolf beneath the black banner, the silver-threaded dragon roaring silent in night wind, the young king whose eyes seemed carved from winter stone. When at last most banners had passed beyond broken walls, a stillness fell once more over the pit. Tyrion signaled the priests away. Davos motioned for the remaining guards to keep watch at a distance. Only then did Jon allow the weight of the circlet to settle into his flesh, cool against his brow. "It fits," Daenerys whispered with wry softness. "It's heavy. Crowns often are." He turned to her. "Thank you." She touched the back of his hand briefly, a gesture so swift it might have been an accident. "If gratitude is due," she said, "give it to those who will suffer if you falter. Let their memory steady you." He inclined his head, assent without contention. "And you? Will you stand beside me, or behind?" "Ben?" She drew back slightly. "Beside. For now. But I remain what I am. A dragon unbound." A faint smirk tugged Tyrion's lips. "A dragon and a wolf?" Surely a clever hand can broker peace between such beasts. Jon raised a brow. "Peace is not brokered, it is earned." "Then earn it swiftly," Tyrion said, glancing skyward where storm clouds massed. "For the city whispers of famine as loudly as of kings. Grain stores run low. Flea bottom feeds on rats again." "Medine." "We will open the granaries," Jon answered at once, "and send riders to the Reach. Lord Garland has pledged wheat enough to feed half the realm." "A pledge is air until wagons roll through the gates," Tyrion interrupted. "We require coin to purchase speed, and coin we have none." Jon's jaw tightened. "We will have coin once trade resumes. And trade will not resume until pirates are swept from the stepstones, whose fleets multiply each week." Daenerys stepped between them, calm yet unyielding. "We speak of burdens for another hour. Let tonight breathe." She turned to Jon. "Walk with me." He hesitated. People still lingered. Scribes taking note. Young knights staring with open awe. Daenerys moved aside, letting him decide. At last he nodded. Together, they descended the dais, Ghost pacing behind. They left by a side passage unlit, save for an amber lantern swinging from a hook. The corridor smelled of damp soil and faded straw. Once, dragons had nested here. Their footsteps echoed. "I wonder," Jon said softly as they walked. "Did Rhaegar ever imagine this? His son, raised a bastard, crowned among ruins? And now?" Daenerys considered. "Rhaegar imagined many things. The words of prophecy filled his days. But his dreams were windows, not doors. Dreams open to visions, not to stone and blood. Reality is harsher. So I've found." She brushed her fingers along a crumbling wall. "Yet sometimes reality yields to vision, or bends when pressed by unyielding purpose." Her gaze flicked to him. "Tell me, Aegon, what is your purpose?" He stumbled at the name, unfamiliar yet searing. "To keep people alive," he said after a breath. "To tear down tyrants, to stop winter from swallowing hope. To build something that will last longer than my life. A worthy aim." She slowed, turning to face him fully. "But aims require shape. Until you shape the realm, others will shape it for you." Jon sensed a challenge beneath her words, one both practical and personal. "Will you shape it?" "I will help." A faint smile. But I will not rule through you, if that is your fear." He shook his head. "That is not my fear." "Then what is?" He looked past her, into darkness where the passage curved away. "Ghost's breath made soft white plumes. That the crown may command me to do things I despise, and that the realm will cheer even those horrors, so long as they are draped in righteousness." Daenerys sighed, a sound as weary as it was wise. "Hold fast to who you are, Jon Snow. King or no, you remain that man. Every day another piece slips away. Then I will hold the pieces you lose." She whispered, "If you will hold mine." Silence answered, heavy but not unkind. Far above, Drogon gave a final rumble and swept into the night, his wings trailing embers westward toward the sea. In his wake, the moon broke through cloud at last, silvering the broken dome and bathing the Dragonpit in ghostlight. Against that pale radiance, two figures stood, wolf and dragon unbowed, facing the long road to morning. And somewhere, in the city's twisting alleys, a child who had never seen a king save in ragged drawings looked up and whispered a name, newly learned, tasting its power upon his tongue like warm bread on a hungry night. Aegon. Kai. Night settled over King's Landing like a weary cloak, frayed at the hem and smelling of smoke. In the hush that followed Drogon's departure, the city felt fragile, balancing upon a breath. Down the long slope of Rhaenys' Hill, lanterns glimmered in latticed windows, while alleys lay drowned in soot-black darkness. Jon walked through that darkness without escort save Ghost, Daenerys a step behind him, their boots crunching stray bits of gravel left from shattered domes. The moon hung full and low, its pallid light revealing fresh scars in the paving stones, scars mirrored in the people who watched from half-open doorways as their new king passed. A fishmonger's daughter clutched a bucket's iron handle, eyes wide at the sight of the direwolf. Beside her, her father removed a frayed cap and bowed almost out of reflex, as though manners alone might steady a world rearranged. Jon returned a nod, gentle, insufficient. He felt the space between his crown and the child's bare feet as a chasm deeper than Blackwater Bay. Wind caressed his temples, lifting dark curls around the circlet, carrying the murmur of distant waves and the less distant clamor of taverns already toasting Aegon reborn. The words slid through shutters and cracked mortar. The young dragonwolf, the king of many gods, the bastard of Winterfell no more. At the foot of the hill rose the half-gutted ruin that had been the Red Keep. Rubble still blocked the main gate, so Jon and Daenerys entered by a narrow breach blasted months earlier. Torches sputtered in iron sconces, and within the shell of Maegor's holdfast carpenters worked by night, hammering scaffolds that reached toward rafters yet to be replaced. In what had once been the throne room, a vast sailcloth canopy now served as roof, its seams stitched with golden cord that winked like faint constellations whenever sparks leapt from braziers. Tyrion awaited them near a long oak table erected upon trestles where the Iron Throne had stood. He rubbed tired eyes, ink stains blotting his fingers. Thick rolls of parchment lay unsealed, heavy with wax-dripped signets from lords great and small. A half-empty flagon perched beside his quill. "You managed the walk without incident," he observed, voice echoing in the cavernous space. "That alone counts as progress." Daenerys loosened the clasp at her throat, letting her cloak fall across a chair. "What news?" The Tyrell grain convoy reached the Roserad 2 hours past dusk. With an escort of 500 mounted reachmen, it should arrive inside the walls by midday, assuming the city gates remain unblocked by revelers chanting your king's many names. Tyrion offered a thin smile meant to appear reassuring and failed. Not enough to feed every mouth, but enough to quell talk of bread riots. Jon slid onto a bench, Ghost settling at his boots. "We'll distribute what we can through the septs and the guild halls. Those queues must form before dawn." "Already arranged," Tyrion said. "The faith will provide the hands, the gold cloaks, the armored backs, and the crown precisely none of the coin required to reimburse either." Daenerys lifted a brow. "How empty are our coffers?" "Infinite in their emptiness." Tyrion gave the tabletop an affectionate pat. "We might mint coins from air, but the night lamp bank of Pentos has a stronger hold on fiction." Jon's gaze drifted to the canopy above. where wind pressed canvas inward with a sigh. We'll begin tithing the great houses. They pledged their fortunes to rebuild the realm. Pledges, Tyrion said, float like motes on sunlight until nailed to timber. A pity timber costs more than motes. He rolled a shoulder. Still, there's one source of immediate revenue. Salvage. The burned fleets rotting in Blackwater could be stripped for iron. The free cities will pay well for seasoned hull timbers, even charred. Strip the ships? Daenerys frowned. They are pyres for the dead. And monuments rust poorly, Tyrion countered. Better to fund grain than leave corpses to the crabs. We can ferry any remaining bones up the Blackwater in barges, and enter them with honor upon the hill. Graves cost less than famine. Betrayal. Jon studied the dwarf's face, weighing pragmatism against decency. Do it, he said at last. Quietly. Across the hall, Davos Seaworth emerged through a curtained arch, his gray beard still damp from washing. He gave Jon a short nod before addressing the table. Your Grace, another matter. Sails at dusk off Massey's Hook bore stepstone colors. Raider banners. They drew near enough to harry an arbor merchant, but turned south when our watchfires flared. Then Tyrion exhaled through his nose. Pirates at the throat again. They smell our weakness like sharks scenting blood. Jon's fingers drummed the bench. How many ships? Hard to say, Davos answered. At least a dozen long and low, oared for speed. If they raid the gullet, we lose the arbor wine and half our incoming grain. Daenerys straightened. We still hold 3 of my own galleys, plus Black Betha's sister ship. She glanced at Jon. Give me a captain, and I'll put out by dawn. Tyrion coughed. Forgive my tactlessness, but the small folk may grow uneasy if their queen takes ship the morning after crowning a new king. Appearances and all that. Daenerys' eyes cooled to hard violet glass. Appearances can burn. Jon touched her gloved wrist, gently. Let the galleys sail under Sir Davos, he said. Your presence is needed here, in council, in sight of the people. A dragon in harbor weighs more than sails at sea. Her anger softened, but did not entirely fade. Very well, she conceded. To Davos she added, take Rhaella's pride, Targaryen colors flying. Show the pirates the realm stands united. Davos bowed. I'll sail on the first tide. When the meeting adjourned, carpenters doused their lanterns and shuffled out, leaving vast shadows to prowl the half-repaired chamber. Jon remained seated, elbows on knees, mind circling like a hawk above too many fields. Tyrion lingered long enough to press a thin ledger into Jon's hand. Petitions from the guilds. They expect audience at first light. He gestured toward the ledger's spine where silver thread-bound pages already frayed. Read or don't read. But know they will judge you by how promptly you pretend to read. He left then, favoring a limp not there weeks ago. Daenerys drifted after him until only Jon and Ghost remained. The direwolf laid his head upon Jon's knee, red eyes gleaming in torch glow. Jon's fingers burrowed deep into soft white fur, drawing comfort from familiar warmth while his gaze traced the desolation of the throne room. Broken marble flooring, pillars blackened by dragonfire, ragged banners drooping like wilted flowers. The scent of char lingered still, subtle yet permanent. A whisper of silk heralded Sansa's arrival. She emerged from behind a shattered column, hair veiled, 2 guards at a respectful distance. When Jon rose, she stepped close, chin lifting so they were eye to eye. I waited until the last clerk left, she murmured. The city is afire with celebration and fear. They will have more of both, he said. Did you eat? A little. Her expression softened. I saw the moment she crowned you. I am proud of you, Jon. He searched her face. You doubt this path. I doubt every path, she replied. That is what ruling teaches. She slipped her hand into his. Winterfell is secure. Arya rides the Wolfswood with patrols. Maester Wolkan reports stores enough for 3 winters. You kept our people safe, he said. Now keep yours. She squeezed his fingers. And remember the North. It has bowed to a Targaryen once before. It may bend again, but not if the dragon forgets the wolf. He smiled then, weary and full of gratitude. Stay a while. I will. But tonight you need sleep. She glanced to the ledger. Tyrion had left. Give the guilds an hour at dawn, no more. Choose a small kindness to grant them. Any kindness. They'll leave thinking you generous. And no Wendy. Clever as always. Cleverness is a shield, she said. Use it. Good night, your grace. When she was gone, Jon dismissed what remained of the guards, strode through hollow corridors to the solar prepared for him, atop a still solid tower. The room smelled faintly of lavender soap, some servant's attempt at comfort. He stripped off cloak and tunic, leaving the circlet upon a low table whose legs were bowed under the weight of weather-stained books rescued from the grand library's ruins. Ghost padded to the hearth and lay curled before dull coals. Jon poured water from a pitcher, drank, and studied his reflection in the window's wavy glass. Candlelight warped the image, a pale face crowned with dark metal, eyes shadowed, wolf's blood beneath dragon's skin. He lifted fingers to the circlet, toyed with its edge, then let his hand fall. Weariness crawled inside him like slow frost. Sleep did not come. Past midnight he found himself wandering ramparts still pitted by wildfire scars. The city below glimmered in skewed constellations, torch clusters at intersections, bonfires in square courtyards, flickers at tavern thresholds, where revelers spilled ale in the king's name. Farther off, in blackness toward the east, the Dragonpit's ruined shell glowed faintly where priests kept a vigil flame. The night smelled of cedar smoke and tides. Footsteps rang. Jon turned to find Gendry Baratheon ascending the stair, shirt half-laced, soot smudging forearms. He carried a wrapped bundle against one hip. "Your Grace," he said, not quite hiding a grin. "Couldn't sleep?" "Nor could you by the look." Jon eyed the bundle. "Still forging at this hour." Gendry set it down, unwrapping linen to reveal a sword blank glowing faintly with residual heat. "The master armorers want 50 new blades for your Kingsguard. Steel's cheap, craftsman errant. Figured I'd help." He shrugged. "Hammer clears the head." Jon touched the metal, warm as midday stone. "Fine edge. Will be once ground." Gendry hesitated, then asked, "Softer? Is it true that you never wanted a crown?" "True." Jon leaned against the parapet. "But a crown wanted me." That happens." Gendry's laugh held little mirth. "I was a bastard who wanted nothing more than to know my da. Ended up Lord of Storm's End. Titles chase folk who least fancy them." He hefted the blank. "Make no mistake though, Storm's End will stand behind you. Baratheon blood owes Targaryen blood a debt." Jon's gaze drifted to the distant dark sea, where dawn's faint silver touched horizon. "It's not blood that holds realms," he said. "It's people like you still at the forge after midnight. Then let's hope people like me don't mind short nights." Gendry answered, rewrapping the sword. He clapped Jon's shoulder and descended, whistling low. Hour crept toward dawn. Below, the city's fires guttered. Jon watched until colors seeped back into the world. A bruised purple sky paling to mauve. Rooftops gilded by the first shy sunbeam. Bells tolled again, this time lauds, and along the streets queues began to form where sacks of Tyrell grain waited beneath soldiers' guard. Murmurs of relief drifted upward, thin but steady. A start. He returned inside, bathed quickly, pulled on fresh leathers and a doublet of dark blue, sewn with a subtle pattern of deer wolves, intertwined with three-headed dragons. The circlet felt colder this morning. In the small dining hall Tyrion waited, hunched over a bowl of porridge. Davos stood near the hearth in travel cloak, sea boots fresh tarred. The hand rose as Jon entered. "Your Grace, the guild representatives gather in the outer court. We should begin before their bellies remind them. It is breakfast." "Now." Jon ate 3 spoonfuls of porridge, washed it down with watered wine, then followed Tyrion through corridors echoing with hammer blows. In the courtyard, cobblers, masons, fishmongers, and dyers bowed more or less gracefully. Jon listened as torso straightened. Concerns about dock levies, requests for coin to rebuild the hook, complaints regarding potters' kilns commandeered for wildfire cleanup. He granted 2 petitions, grain subsidies for orphanages and timber allotments for shattered workshops, and promised review of the rest. Scribes scribbled, guild masters bowed, and the royal voice, steady, patient, decisive, won them enough goodwill to color rumor for a day at least. Tyrion's nod of approval felt earned. When the guilds dispersed, ravens flapped overhead. 3 black silhouettes spiraling to the rookery tower. A pageboy hurried to intercept their messages. Moments later the lad approached, cheeks flushed. "Birds from Old Town, Your Grace." He offered 2 tubes of bone. Jon broke the seals. The first parchment bore the Citadel's sigil, requesting audience to discuss restoration of observatories. The second, shorter, bore only a scrawl. Sighted sail bearing Kraken sigil east of the arbor. "Host unknown, prepare." Jon handed it to Tyrion. "Euron dead, yet his shadow lingers. Shadows require light to cast them," Tyrion muttered. "And we provide plenty of light with our troubles." He tucked the parchment inside his sleeve. "We must strengthen the royal fleet sooner than we hoped, or secure alliances with those who already possess one." "Done." "Who?" Jon asked, though he suspected the answer. "The Lady of Dragonstone," Tyrion replied, "and the warden of the North ships at White Harbor." He glanced sideways. "2 women who trust you." Jon thought of Sansa's measured calm, of Daenerys' wary fire. Trust, he knew, was a fragile ship. Easily hold, hard to repair. "Draft the letters," he said. "I will sign before noon." Mid-morning brought drizzle, a fine mist that turned dust to paste and muffled the carpenter's hammers. Jon crossed the bailey toward the Sept of Baelor's still standing crypt, where makeshift infirmaries treated wounds left from the sack and the Queen's last battle. The Queen herself knelt among them now, sleeves rolled above the elbow, helping a maester bind an old woman's infected ankle. Blood bloomed through damp linen. Daenerys met Jon's gaze over the patient's head, and in that brief look he read exhaustion, purpose, and a faint satisfaction. Less Northerners' grim pride in duty done, more the quiet assertion that healing could be an act of rule as mighty as proclamation. When the bandage was tied, she rinsed her hands in a basin scented with thyme and rosewater. "You came to see if I'd fled," she teased, drying her fingers on an apron hem. "I came to tell you the sea calls for coin and ships," he answered, "and to thank you for staying." Her smile curved. "Small and real. If the sea calls, let it shout a while. The realm's wounds begin here." She gestured around at cots of straw where children coughed under thin blankets. "If we mend flesh, we may mend faith." He studied her, noticing bits of lace undone at her collar, soot streaking one cheekbone. "You should rest." "So should you." He nodded, conceding the point. "There will be a small council at dusk. We face pirates, famine, and empty vaults." "We faced the dead once," she reminded. "Pirates are simpler foes. Greedy, mortal, prone to fear. May they never unite under one who is not," Jon said. Grey Worm appeared in the doorway, impassive as a carved idol. "My queen," he said in the common tongue he now commanded comfortably. "The Unsullied stand ready." Dock quarter cleared, bread lines calm. She thanked him with a nod. He lingered, gaze sliding to Jon with lingering reserve. Jon returned a measured dip of the chin. Time and deeds alone would bridge the gulf of old loyalties. As afternoon waned, the drizzle thickened, turning torches to sputtering aisles of flame under dripping eaves. From the ramparts Jon watched Sir Davos' squadron slip downstream, sails angled sharp into mist, hulls carving silent wakes past half-sunken wrecks. A gull wheeled above Rhaella's pride, its cry a solitary trumpet. Ghost stood beside Jon, fur plastered in wet clumps, ears twitching at each gust. Somewhere far below, a bell rang 3 slow peals, signal of grain wagons entering the King's Gate. The sound stirred cheers even in the rain. Tyrion approached, cloak soaked, holding a sealed scroll shielded beneath sleeve. "Reply from Winterfell," he said. "Your sister approves the levy. 10 merchant carracks will sail once the river ice breaks." Jon took the scroll, noting Sansa's careful hand. Good. He rubbed brow. What of the Dornish envoy? Delayed by Stormland's mudslides. 2 days. Perhaps 3. Tyrion frowned toward the southeast, where storm clouds piled like black fortresses. We may greet them with lightning. Thunder grumbled in the distance. Jon breathed the electric charge, felt the world shiver around him. He pictured the Dragonpit on coronation night, torches blazing, banners cracking, a crown descending, an image already retreating behind newer images. Guild halls, infirmary, ravens bearing kraken threats. The crown had not made him a king of stories. It made him a steward of endless tasks. At dusk, the small council convened in a round tower chamber, mostly intact. Rain drummed on slate overhead. Seats were few, so they ranged in a loose circle. Tyrion, Hand of the King. Sansa, Lady of Winterfell. Samwell Tarly, newly arrived with parchment-laden satchel. Davos absent, his chair left empty in silent hope of swift return. Grey Worm representing the Unsullied. Lord Garland Tyrell in dark green velvet. And Daenerys, no title voice tonight, though no one forgot it. Sam laid scrolls across a map strewn with markers. The Citadel confirms unusual currents in the summer sea. Pirate captains exploit eddies to raid faster than expected. They speak of a channel called the Serpent's Tail, cut by last year's quake. And no. Tyrion tapped the map. If true, we have a knife at our underbelly. Blocking it requires fortifying the stepstones. Costly and time-consuming. Garland folded arms. Or we strike their nests before they entrench, arbor wine, and reach grain fund mercenaries enough for a punitive expedition. Jon met Daenerys' gaze. You wish to sail yourself. Would you lead such an expedition? I would. Her voice held steel. Sansa leaned forward. Leaving kings, landing leaderless, invites rebels. News of your absence spreads faster than ravens. Now, I would not sail alone, Daenerys countered. Grey Worm commands the Unsullied with or without me. The king commands the realm. But a realm needs symbols, Sansa insisted. And you, your grace, her nod included Daenerys, are a symbol people fear and trust in equal measure. Lose either, and chaos grows. Grey Worm spoke, measured. Unsullied obey. City remains orderly if discipline remains strong. Pirates threaten food. Food is strength. Thunder cracked. Candles trembled, thin flames bending. Jon raised both hands slightly, claiming silence. The realm bleeds on many fronts. We cannot damn every wound at once. We choose one, stitch it, then move. For now we protect grain lines. Davos sails with what we can spare. If he fails, we reconsider. In the meantime, I will court the Iron Bank. He felt Tyrion tense but continued. We seek a loan against future port levies. They will demand collateral. We will offer Crownland's timber reserves and steppe farmland deeds. Tyrion released a slow breath. A bold gambit. They prefer hard coin above speculative harvests. Jon's jaw set. Then we make harvest certain. Sam, gather scholars and farmers. Chart crop rotations, irrigation, yields. Present proof that the soil will feed as surely as gold glitters. The maester in training nodded vigorously. At once, your grace. Daenerys leaned back, hands steepled. And what of Casterly Rock? Lannister gold may not be bottomless, but it is vast still. Tyrion gave a brittle laugh. My nephew rules there now, a boy of 7 with an overzealous regent. They will not open coffers to a king crowned under a black dragon banner, while Lannister red yet runs. Not yet, Jon said. But perhaps soon. The council pushed on, topics shifting from plague rumors in the Riverlands to grain tariffs along the Trident, from refugees on Crackclaw Point to a sept destroyed by lightning in the Reach. Hours passed. Rain slackened and stopped. When at last they adjourned, candles had burned to puddles of wax. Jon stood, legs stiff. The circlet's pressure felt like a brand. Sansa touched his arm. You need rest more than strategy. Rest will not feed the city, he said. No. she agreed softly. But a dead king feeds no one. She pressed something into his palm, a tiny wooden direwolf carved years ago by their late brother Rickon. Its edges were smooth by much handling. Keep it. Remember where you began. His throat tightened. Thank you. She departed with Sam. Tyrion trudged away, rubbing his temples. Grey Worm lingered only to bow lightly to Daenerys before following his soldiers. Soon Jon and Daenerys were alone again. Save the crackle of coals. She approached the window. Beyond, clouds peeled back to reveal a ragged slice of indigo sky. You command them well, she said without turning. Better than you believe. I command because they allow it, he answered. Trust is permission, and permission can be revoked. She looked over her shoulder. Yet they permit. Still. That is power. He joined her at the window. Far below, the lamps of King's Landing shimmered upon streets, still slick from rain, their reflections reminding him of tears on dark stone. Power is born of need, he murmured. If I fail, need will birth another. Then do not fail. She reached up, fingers brushing the circlet's rim. Let the crown be more than metal. Let it be promise. Their eyes met. For an instant, in that dim tower chamber, the world shrank to two souls bound by war and wonder and weary hope. Her touch lingered a heartbeat longer. Then she withdrew, leaving the promise unspoken but palpable, like distant thunder felt in bone. Jon watched her depart, the train of her gown whispering across stone. When silence reclaimed the room, he opened his hand and regarded the tiny direwolf. Candlelight danced on its worn surface. He closed his fingers around it, felt the grain press into his palm. Memory of roots sunk deep in northern loam. Outside, a wind rose from the east, carrying the scent of the sea and the faintest tang of smoke. Somewhere upon that wind came the echo of distant drums. Ships striking sails, oars hitting water, the realm shifting in its uneasy sleep. Jon Snow, Aegon Targaryen, turned toward the sound not with dread, but with a steady readiness forged in ice and tempered now in fire. The night waited, vast and uncertain. He stepped into it, the crown upon his brow, and a wooden wolf hidden against his heart. A.K. The dawn of Jon's third day as king broke upon a city thin-cheered and bleary-eyed, its revels already soured into rumor. Light spilled over the Red Keep's patched ramparts and found every imperfection. Mortar still crumbling between stones, canvas roofs sagging beneath dew, guards nodding through the last bells of a too-long night watch. Somewhere deep in the maze of passages, a singer strummed a flat chord, his ode to Aegon VI dying half-formed for want of coin or conviction. Jon had slept perhaps an hour, an uneasy doze by the hearth in his chart-strewn solar, boots still laced, cloak thrown over one shoulder. The soft scrape of ghosts' claws across flagstones woke him. Gray light rimmed the windows. A raven croaked outside. On the low table nearby, a sealed letter lay where no letter had been when his eyes closed, stamped in black wax with the Kraken's sigil of House Greyjoy. He slit it, expecting bluster from Pike. Instead he found 4 terse lines from Lady Asha. 300 sails ride the sunset sea. Ravens whisper of a crownless brother loosed from golden company chains. The islands will not bleed for his folly. Guard the gullet. He means to grasp it first. No name, yet there was only one brother that warning could signify. Victarion, thought long drowned after the sack of Volantis, returning as a storm returns to battered cliffs. Jon read the lines twice more, then fed the parchment to the coals. The Kraken's reach was wide, but not so wide as to pluck words from ash. He rose, joints cracking, bathed in cold water, and belted on sword and doublet before the first summons arrived. A breathless page with news that the sept of the handmaidens had collapsed in the night, softened beams finally yielding under seasons of neglect. 40 were injured, 11 dead. Most of them children whose parents slaved at river quays. Jon sent Sam and 2 field maesters, ordered flour, blankets, and the keep's carpenters, and promised to stand vigil come evening. Then he turned to the next calamity. Ashore in the outer yard, wagons of reach grain stood wheel-deep in slurry, Sansa's overseers shouting themselves hoarse, while gold cloaks tried to keep desperate hands from slashing sacks. Jon waded into the fray. Mud soaked his boots, but the sight of the crowned king with sword at hip stilled the worst frenzy. He spoke little, only pointed, lifted, hauled, shoulder to shoulder with the same dockhands who had cheered him 2 nights ago. By noon, the grain lay stacked beneath oiled tarps in the granary under guard, and a cook line snaked into Flea Bottom, where trencher bread bubbled in beef-fat cauldrons. Only then did word reach him of sails sighted south, Knight's banners snapping crimson against a slate horizon. Lord Garland returning ahead of schedule, masts too few by half. Jon hurried to the Honeywine gate. Rain began again, needling, relentless. At the quayside, Garland dismounted, armor dulled by sea salt, cheeks carved by sleeplessness. The pirates scattered, he reported without preamble. Davos' squadron limps behind me, 2 ships lost. 1 burned, 1 taken. He swears they faced 27 hulls at least, all flying black. Some bore Kraken pennants, most bore no colors at all. Jon felt the letter's phantom heat in his pocket. And the grain convoy. Spared this time. But the raiders are bold. If they seize the gullet, we lose every ship northbound from Old Town. Rain drummed on helms and pauldrons. Jon tasted copper in his mouth, the taste of winter wounds. "Come inside," he said. "Bring your captains. We plan at once." Menatuan see. They gathered in the half-roofed throne room while water streamed between canvas seams. Tyrion arrived yawning but alert. Daenerys entered soon after. Tunic sleeves still rolled from the infirmary. Sansa stood to one side in dove-gray wool, eyes watchful, a silent chorus to every word. Garland spread charts weighted with dagger hilts. The pirates strike in 4 knots, oars clicking like sewing looms. Recurve bows picked men off decks before we closed half a furlong. Davos steered the Raella's pride into their van, broke 2 hulls, but the cost? He shook his head. "We need more ships and better archers." "Ships we can build," Tyrion said. "In half a year with lumber we cannot spare. Archers we can find, but arrows must pierce oaken bulwarks thick as my arm." Daenerys' gaze drifted to Jon. When dragons lived, no fleet dared close the gullet. Jon remembered dragonfire scorching fields beyond Winterfell. Unsparing? Uncontrollable? Drogon could shatter 20 sails, he acknowledged, but we risk wildfire adrift on water, and the people would see another city burned from the sky. They would see salvation, she countered. Or they would see terror, Sansa said, voice level. "It is too soon to loose dragons above their heads." A fissure of silence split the council until Grey Worm stepped forward. "My queen, my king, unsullied, cannot walk on water, but they can choke an island. Give us the stepstones. We will tear the raiders out root and branch." "An island campaign drains coffers faster than ships," Tyrion warned. "It drains pirate coffers faster still," Grey Worm replied. Jon weighed the room. Every plan cost coin they lacked. Except one. "The Iron Fleet," he said. "If Asha speaks true, 300 sails sit idle, while Victarion hunts his own crown. Bring her to our side and we meet pirates with pirates." Garland frowned. "Greyjoys allied to the realm. The Reach will howl. They will howl louder when their wine rots in hold," Tyrion said. "Asha bargains in good faith." "She always has. But the price? Pike will want seats at council, freedom to raid Essos, tariff rights on every cask that passes her straits." "Then grant them," Jon answered. "Seats by loyalty, tariffs by peace. So long as they fly my banner when called." Daenerys studied him. "You risk trusting Krakens, because a Kraken wrote you a warning." "I risk everything," he said, "because doing nothing risks more." She held his gaze, searching, then nodded once. "Send the Raven." Tyrion sighed as he reached for quill and parchment. "And pray Ironmen read more than they drown." Endure. The Raven flew at dusk, black wings stroking ever-darkening skies. By the time its shadow slipped beyond Dragonstow's flame-lit horizon, Jon stood atop the ramparts beside Sansa, both cloaked against a salt wind rising from the narrow sea. Below, lanterns wove patterns across the harbor like constellations sunk to earth. "You read Asha's letter?" he asked quietly. "I read the ashes in your brazier," she replied. "I knew from your face it held little comfort." "The Kraken returns," Jon said. "I will not let him close his coils around the capital. You wield trust the way some wield daggers." She observed. "Point first, hilt second." He glanced sidelong at her. "Meaning?" "Meaning you trust Daenerys openly before half the realm, yet keep half your plans from her. You trust Asha, who once burned Lannisport's docks, but hold Garland at arm's length though he fed your people." "Mendawand." Jon folded arms against the cold. "I trust deeds. Daenerys crowned me when she might have claimed the throne. Asha warned me of Victarion when she might have joined him. Deeds, not names. And if their deeds change, then my trust changes." Sansa's breath steamed pale. "Be certain your own deeds remain constant, brother. The realm watches. I watch." He heard no threat in her words, only the steel of northern honesty. "I will not forget," he said. "Nor will I forget your counsel." She inclined her head, accepting. A gull calling overhead punctured the hush. Sea spray mingled with mist about their boots. Far out, above the restless gleam, a shape swept low. Drogon, wings outspread, patrolling the dark like a living storm cloud. Jon tracked the dragon's flight until it vanished beyond the treetops of Blackwater Rush. "Does he obey her?" Sansa asked. "He loves her, I think," Jon answered. "That can be obedience or rebellion." Oh. The week that followed burrowed into every sinew of the king's resolve. Ravens thumped to rookery perches bearing petitions, grievances, and threats. A sellsword company in the disputed lands offering service for debt forgiveness. Wintertown demanding reduced levies. The Cohoric envoy promising 5,000 crossbows in exchange for a port quarter free of tariffs. Tyrion triaged the scrolls by urgency, Sam by ethics, Sansa by political consequence, Jon by whichever pile lay nearest when he stumbled from council to council. The piles never shrank. Each dawn he walked the city. He learned its wounds by smell and sound. The stench where sewers had burst behind the Street of Sisters. The steady thunk of masons restoning the flea-bottom walls. The lullaby murmur in healing tents pitched on the hill of Rhaenys. He listened, spoke little, and turned observation into quiet orders. Extra torches where alleys ran black as pitch. Patrols doubled near the Sept's ruins. Debt fines waived for the fishwives whose stalls had burned under dragonfire during the siege. At night he drilled with the new Kingsguard, 7 picked from every corner of Westeros. Sir Jorah's cousin Lyness from Bear Island. Sir Adam Hightower, thin as a spear. Sir Tolwyn of the Dornish Marches whose scorpion tattoo wound from wrist to elbow. 2 Sellsword veterans sworn for coin turned honor. And Sir Brynden Tully at their head, reclaimed from illness of spirit by the promise of fresh purpose. They sparred in the Godswood courtyard beneath lanterns strung through winter branches, steel clanging until the moon tilted west. The sounds carried into Daenerys' chamber where she walked circles about council notes. Ears pricked to tests she could neither join nor ignore. One night, as the training ended, Jon found her beneath the great weirwood, grown from a sapling transplanted years ago. White leaves fluttered about her like falling snow. She regarded the red face carved into its trunk. "Old gods," she said softly. "I feel them watching." "They watch all," Jon answered, wiping sweat from his brow. "And rarely speak. Is that why you serve so many gods? To hear at least one?" He sheathed Longclaw. "I don't serve them. I remember them. Remembering can be worship enough." She touched the bark, fingertips brushing grooves of eye and mouth. "Children colored me a dragon since birth. Yet no dragon gods greet me here. Only silent faces and silent stars." "You found your faith in yourself," he said. "No." She turned. Moonlight silvered her hair. "I found it in those who followed me. Their belief birthed dragons far more stubborn than these wings. He stepped close. Then leave belief to them, and keep duty for yourself. Duty gives shape to belief. Now. And who shapes duty? We shape each other. He offered his hand. She did not take it, but stood within its reach. The space between their palms buzzing like a live wire. Your counsel balks at my fire, she whispered. Your sister doubts my name. Your hand counts every breath I take like coins from a miser's purse. Yet you stand here telling me we shape each other. I tell you we must, he replied, or the realm will shape us both. She studied him, eyes violet in shadow, unreadable. Then ghost padded from the archway, tail sweeping dead leaves. The wolf paused beside Daenerys, sniffed her palm, allowed her fingers to scratch behind an ear. For an instant she smiled, soft and startled. Jon felt something unseen settle beside the wolf. Acceptance, or perhaps the first small step of it. The raven from Pike returned 9 days later, wings ragged from storms that had scoured the sunset sea. Asha's answer was brief. Lend me dock rights in Old Town and 3 seats upon your council. Iron Men will shield the gullet. Victarion seeks you, not me. He follows a prophet woman with fire in her eyes. No threats, no oaths. Only terms. Jon convened the council before sunup. 3 seats? Garland scoffed. She means to drown the table. She means to guard her leverage, Tyrion said. An island's strength lies in ships, not fields. If we balk, she sails neutral and sells our grain to the highest bidder. We cannot barter chairs to pirates, Sansa argued. Then we barter them to hunger, Daenerys countered. Asha's Ironborn fought at Winterfell. They bore the cold as well as any Northman. Jon rubbed his temples. 2 seats. 1 for Pike, 1 rotating among the lesser isles. Dock rights granted for 7 years, then renegotiated. Tariffs fixed at 1 part in 20, same as Storm's End. Wow. Tyrion's quill scratched parchment. A generous compromise. Necessary, Jon said. Have the raven ready by noon. He stood, signaling adjournment. But Sam cleared his throat, gaze reluctant. Your Grace, 1 more matter. He unfolded a scroll. Sealed gold. The High Septon requests audience. The faith militant grows restless. Tyrion groaned. Restless zealots wield cudgels and scripture in equal measure. They complain of dragons circling the great sept, Sam added. They complain of everything, Daenerys said, though tension crept into her voice. Jon considered. Grant the audience. Tomorrow at sunrise. The Dragonpit again. Let the people witness. Witness what? Sansa asked. Witness that crowns forged in dragonfire can still kneel to prayer. He rose. And that prayer alone must kneel to reason. And no. Thunder had smothered the morning as the High Septon shuffled into the Dragonpit, flanked by a dozen star-scarred brothers. The amphitheater still bore scars of the coronation. Scorched pillars, trampled grass in the galleries. Jon waited on the same dais. Circlet hidden beneath a plain hood. Ghost sprawled behind like living snowdrift. Opposite, Daenerys stood cloaked in deep crimson. Drogon perched on a half-fallen arch high above. The High Septon bowed stiffly. His rheumy eyes darted from direwolf to dragon. Your Grace, my queen. The faith rejoices at every stone set back upon Beller's hill. Yet small folk murmur of leviathans overhead, of black wings blotting sun and hope alike. They fear a second scouring. Jon lowered his hood. Fear often follows what men do not know. I would know your remedy. And now, remove the beast. The Septon said, gesturing trembling hand skyward. Let it nest far from God's houses. Let its shadow fall upon heathen seas, not sacred streets. A hiss rippled through those who watched. City folk, tradesmen, a score of sellswords drawn by rumor. Drogon rumbled, eyes embers behind smoke. Daenerys' voice rang, crisp as frost. When dragons served the realm, the faith blessed their riders. Hill fortresses fell, yes, but so did plague and famine. My Drogon bears no plague but strength. Strength without piety is pride. The Septon replied. Jon stepped forward. And piety, without openness, is fear. We cannot undo shadows by banishing what casts them. We live beside monsters, winter, hunger, men who prey upon the weak. Would you blind the city to nightfall because night inspires fear? The Septon's mouth tightened. Night is natural. Dragons are not. Dragons are as natural as seven-pointed stars, Jon said. Born of earth, wind, and fire. Made, not conjured. Ours to guide or neglect. Daenerys lifted her hand. Drogon dipped from the arch, great wings thrumming. Yet he landed gentle as hush, talons curling around ruined stone yards away. She reached to stroke his muzzle. The crowd gasped. Half terror, half wonder. I guide him, she said. I chain him with mercy, not iron. Reject that mercy and you forge your own chains. Silence rolled. The Septon's gaze flitted to the people more than the king. What he read there, equal parts dread and awe, softened his shoulders. If the beast remains, he said stiffly, let it remain bound by the crown's vow, that it shield rather than scourge. Give the faith this assurance, and we yield prayer in place of protest. Dain. Jon inclined his head. You have it. Should dragonfire fall upon innocence unprovoked, the crown itself will strike the spark from flame. The Septon bowed once more, deeper, then shuffled out beneath sun-gilded clouds now parting overhead. As he left, children crept forward, drawn by Drogon's vast shadow, touching scales where they could reach. Their laughter rose thin but bright. Fear took one more step back. Daenerys watched Jon across the dais. In her eyes glimmered gratitude, surprise, and something older. Faith perhaps of the sort forged when one stranger defends another in the language only courage speaks. By mid-autumn, the wind shifted from salt-sweet to iron-sharp. Snow had not yet kissed the city, but it rode the highest gusts like scouts ahead of an army. Grain stores verged unstable. The Septi's beams rose anew. Ghost's coat thickened to winter plush. Ravens brought word that Asha's fleet, newly allied, had shattered 2 pirate squadrons west of Tarth, sending survivors skittering south with holds aflame. Victarion's own banner was not seen among them. Jon's days became rope, laid end to end. Council, judgment, inspection, drill, bereavement rites, letters to Lords of Storms, End, and White Harbor. Nights narrowed to candlelit hours drafting decrees. Dock tithes lowered for the poorest ports. Craft guild apprentices exempted from war levies, outlawing child indenture under 10. Each decree bore signature Aegon, of houses Targaryen and Stark, an ink bridge between legacies carved in bone. Exhaustion lurked always at the edge of vision, but determination stalked with it. When sleep claimed him on the rare occasion, he dreamed of strange convergences. Red leaves drifting over dragons' wings, kraken tentacles entwined with weirwood roots, a wooden direwolf afloat on black water that shimmered like obsidian. One evening, long after city bells had stilled, he woke from such a dream to find Sam hunched by the hearth, face washed in firelight, eyes rimmed angry red. Scrolls lay open on every surface, their margins dense with his cramped script. Sam? Jon swung legs from his cot. What hour? Past 2. Sam thrust a scroll at him. I found it, buried in a ledger of Valyrian translations Maester Ebros shipped months ago. Jon blinked blearily at faded ink. Found what? A record of the Golden Company's last muster. Sam whispered. 10,000 marched, but only 8,000 reached Lys. 2,000 vanished along the stepstones. The very stretch Victarion now haunts. That was years past. Years. Sam nodded, during which we assumed attrition, desertion, plague. But survivors tell of an isle swallowed in green fire each dusk. Green John. Like wildfire. John's skin chilled. The old pyromancers have no seats so far south, unless someone rebuilt their halls, Sam said. Or something older still burns beneath those stones. Memory flickered. Qyburn's tales of naphtha wells fed by fissures deep as craters. Legends of Valyrian warlocks forging glass candles with fluids born of living earth. Sam pressed on. If Victarion harnesses wildfire vents, his fleet will strike like dragons without dragons. John rose. Circlet forgotten on the bedside chair. Wake the council. Now. And now. Tyrion arrived first, hair askew. Sansa followed wrapped in a shawl, then Daenerys in riding leathers, pale but alert. Garland, summoned from quartered chambers, appeared wearing only gambeson and sword belt, eyes still gritty with sleep. Jon spoke as the last torches were lit. The stepstones harbor a fire we did not know. If Victarion controls it, every hull afloat becomes kindling. Tyrion scanned Sam's parchments. If, he echoed. Wildfire rarely obeys mortal will. Rarely. Sam agreed. But not never. Maegor once used natural fissures to burn rebels at Stonebridge. He tapped a map. Dadiwan. These isles sit on a fault line older than Valyria. Daenerys' gaze sharpened. You fear a new doom. Jon nodded. And I will not wait for confirmation. He faced the council. We strike the stepstones. Swift, decisive. I will lead the assault with Davos and Asha's fleet. Drogon will scour the vents, collapse them if we must. Silence fell incredulous. Then Sansa stepped forward. No. Your place is here. My place is where the realm's throat is bared. It is bared everywhere. She snapped. Pirates are swords at the neck, but here your heart beats for 500,000 souls. If it falters, the body dies. Mentrell. Daenerys touched Jon's forearm. Let me go. Drogon obeys me. I have flown war upon these islands before. You remain to rule. He met her eyes, saw their hunger for action, for vindication. Dangerous hungers both. Yet he felt his own heart surge at the thought of taking the fight beyond walls, where choices came sharp and simple, where steel and wind outweighed parchments and coins. Garland cleared his throat. Send me, he offered. Stormlanders know those shoals. My ships will harass while Asha blocks escape. Tyrion considered. A king's absence incites plots. A dragon queen's absence incites prophecies. But a lord's voyage incites only rumor. Jon closed eyes a breath, listening to inner cadence of caution and courage. Slowly he nodded. Very well. Lord Garland commands. Asha harbors in Blackwater, till ready. Davos guides them through the Narrows. Drogon flies with them, but Daenerys remains. Daenerys' lips pressed thin. She did not object, yet Jon felt the unshed words between them. Hot, restless wings beating against cage bars. He touched her hand beneath the table. The realm needs hope as much as victory. Your presence is hope. Then so. She exhaled and squeezed his fingers once, accepting the chain for now. And oh. 3 days later, as dawn blushed rose and gold, the Allied fleet slipped from the harbor. 5 Tyrell war dramans green-sailed, 8 lean longships of pike black-hulled, the Ariella's pride bearing Davos banner, and above them Drogon wheeling like a living black flag unfurled against the morning. The city awoke early to watch, crowding battlements and quays, prayers mingling with cheers that gusted seawards. Jon stood upon the eastern parapet beside Daenerys. She wore the wooden direwolf Jon had gifted her, a token carved anew by Gendry. Wolf's head crowned with tiny ruby dragon wings. When the fleet passed the headland, Drogon banked, shrieked a farewell scream, and followed. Only then did she turn away. They will win, Jon said, though fear tugged at his voice. They must, she answered. or winter will freeze these stones around us like tomb walls. And I wonder. Winter wasted no time testing that warning. Snow flurried 4 nights later, first delicate, then driving, cloaking rooftops in white that melted to slush by noon and froze ice by dusk. Refugees from the riverlands begged shelter. Jon opened 3 outer baileys, feeding fires with timber meant for siege engines never built. Breadlines lengthened again. The vaults shrank. Tyrion's quill became a harpoon spearing numbers that swam ever deeper red. Meanwhile, ravens brought shards of news from the stepstones. A skirmish near Bloodstone Isle. Captured pirate cog scuttled and burned. No sign yet of Victarion. Jon read the scraps by torchlight and slept in snatches. In the 6th week, no raven came. In the 7th, 2 arrived together. One bearing Tyrell seal, one Iron Islands. He broke them with trembling hands. From Lord Garland to the king, fire erupted beneath the sea. Asha's ships broken. Drogon wounded. We retreat to Sunspear. From Asha, ambushed in black fog. Victarion wields green flame. 200 dead. More wounded. We require the dragon and the king, or all is lost. The parchment slid from numb fingers. That night, the Red Keep's corridors felt narrow as coffins. Jon strode them like a ghost to Daenerys' chamber. She stood ready. Flight leathers buckled, hair braided tight to helm. A bandage wrapped Drogon's forelimb where dark ichor seeped, but his eyes burned unquenched. "You read them," she said. It was not a question. He nodded. "I come with you." Her jaw set. "No, the crown stays. This time, the dragon demands rider alone. Sansa can govern. And lose another brother?" She shook her head. "If I fail, they still have you. If we both fall, winter wins." He caught her shoulders. "I will not sit behind walls while others bleed for my crown." "You will sit," she said, voice breaking, "because if you die this realm fractures. Aegon is promise. Promise cannot sink off some forgotten isle." "Then no I'll end her." He searched her eyes. Tears shimmered but did not fall. Rage and fear dueled within him. At last, he released her. "Return," he whispered. "Return no matter how the battle ends." "I will," she said, and kissed him, swift, fierce, salt-flavored with unshed weeping. Then she swung to Drogon's saddle. The beast crouched, wings stroking dust, and launched through the ruined arch into starless night. Jon stared at the sky until cold numbed his lips. Ghost whined at his side, nose nudging Jon's hand. The king clenched bloody crescents into his palms and turned back toward duty, toward walls that felt smaller than ever. Nah. 3 days passed. Snow thickened, drifted, melted, froze again, painting the city dingy gray. No raven came. On the 4th night, storm winds screeched like ice wraiths, rattling shutters and tearing banners to tatters. Jon paced the map room until the candles guttered. At dawn, he descended to the stables, intent on riding for Storm's End, gathering fresh fleet. Any motion better than waiting. A horn blast cut across the courtyard. A shout from the watchtower. "Dragon sign!" Jon sprinted up the spiral, boots slipping on frost. On the crenelle he beheld a silhouette slanting out of winter clouds. Drogon, wings ragged, trailing smoke. Blood darkened his left flank. Yet upon his back rode Daenerys. Cloak rent, hair whipped loose, face soot-streaked but alive. Cheers erupted. Jon's knees buckled relief. Drogon circled once, twice, then crashed sheer-winged onto the practice yard, throwing snow like surf. Maesters swarmed. Jon leapt the last stair. Slogged through knee-deep drifts to her side as she slid from the saddle. She staggered. He caught her. "Garland?" he asked. "Alive. Wounded." Her voice rasped. Victarion's flagship sunk. The wildfire vents collapsed when Drogon's flame struck true. But he escaped. Into fog. She swayed. Jon lifted her in his arms. Crowds parted as he carried her into the keep, Ghost trotting guard. Tyrion met them at the door, eyes round with questions. Jon could only shake his head. Later. Hours crawled. Maesters stitched Drogon, Sal's smoking on coals. Others tended Daenerys. Scorched calf, cracked ribs, gash along temple. Jon stayed until the worst was bound, then stumbled into a chapel niche, slid down marble to floor, and bowed head upon fists. Prayer came unbidden, wordless, fierce. When at last he slept, he dreamed of a shore littered in blackened ships, their masts broken like ribs, and upon that shore walked a man armored in barnacled iron, wearing a crown of fused smoke. Each step he took left, green flame burning in the sand. Enderu. Weeks turned. The city thawed, then froze again. Daenerys healed slowly, yet her spirit did not rest. She took to crutches within days, to council within a fortnight, to the parapets within a month. Drogon's hide knitted, scarred but strong. Each time he spread wings over the city, a second cheer rose. For survival, for vengeance deferred. Garland limped ashore with half his crew, tales of wildfire geysers, and kraken-sigilled longships swallowed by their own flames. Asha's fleet, battered but proud, moored under Lion Gate banners and drank themselves horse-toasting Wolf King and Dragon Queen alike. Trade routes reopened. Grain caravans flowed. At last Tyrion's ledgers bled black instead of red. Yet Jon did not taste triumph. He sensed movement beneath quiet like serpents under snow. Victarion lived. Somewhere. The Faith held its breath, counting dragon flights. The Iron Bank waited, ledger teeth sharp. And always the crown weighed heavier, its promise a forge fire stoked by endless demands. One night, sitting beside Daenerys where she rested in a chair by the hearth, he confessed the weight. "I thought wearing it would feel like home by now," he said. "Instead, it feels like armor too big to move in." She traced the circlet's rim where it lay on the table. "Armor grows to fit," she murmured. "Or we grow to fill it. And if we grow crooked, then those who love us break and set the bones straight." Her hand covered his, warm despite winter. "I will break yours, you break mine, and together we learn to heal." He smiled wearily. "That sounds painful. Living is." She leaned against his shoulder. "But promise is worth the pain." Outside, snow sifted past shutter slits. Soft, yet relentless. The city slept uneasy but alive, its pulse steadier than the night Jon first wore the crown. He closed his eyes, listening. Distant gulls, banks creaking under frost. Somewhere a child's laughter, somewhere a drunkard's song, and beneath it all the low rumble of a dragon dreaming of skies unbound. Jon did not know what storms remained, what krakens or zealots or winters deep as graves, but in that fragile moment he found balance between dread and hope. The realm's heart still beat. He would keep it beating, stroke by stroke, promise by promise, until breath or blood gave out. And if that day came, another would rise, shaped by the deeds he chose tonight. He opened his eyes. The fire burned low, but not yet low enough to dim the light reflected in Daenerys' half-closed eyes. He reached for the poker, stirred embers to flame, and resumed the long vigil that kings, true kings, must bear. Eyes forward, hands steady, heart ablaze against gathering dark. A.K. A dawn of brittle ice glassed the gutters of King's Landing, and across that fragile mirror stalked the winter wind, an insistent whisper rattling shutters and skimming the bay with ripples sharper than knives. In the galleries of the ruined throne room, breath plumed from carpenters' mouths, as they hammered bronze braces to arch supports and sealed canvas seams hastily patched after the last gale. The hammering echoed with unnatural resonance, for most of Maegor's holdfast stood hollow. A giant lung breathing drafts that tasted of old ash and the new iron tang of snow. Jon woke before the sun rose, jolted from a dream in which every corridor in the Red Keep had become a tunnel of ice. He lay staring at the faint glow of banked coals, listening for ghosts slow pant behind his chair. The wolf was there, but tense, tail a flat line across the rug. A tremor passed through Jon. Ghost sensed something living beyond walls. He slipped from bed, shrugged into leggings, tugged a jerkin over his nightshirt, and padded to the window embrasure. Blood-red ribbons striped the eastern clouds, but no banners snapped on the ramparts. The citadel slumbered under frost so heavy it weighed the gargoyles white. Another hour and horns sounded reveille. Jon dressed fully, chased hot tea with stale oat bread, and stepped into a corridor where steam of his exhalations mingled with the breath of servants scurrying to fires that never blazed quite warm enough. He found Tyrion already at work in the solar they shared, ink blotches frozen where quills rested on ledgers. Even the wine in Tyrion's cup shimmered with slush. The hand muttered curses, rubbing stiff fingers over a brazier that glowed but did not crackle. The kiln men swear their charcoal's dry as faith itself. He grumbled. Faith must be sodden. Jon crouched beside the brazier, fed 2 thicker slats, coaxed tongues of blue. Storm's beginning again, he said, meaning more than weather. Tyrion lifted a brow. Jon passed him the latest Raven message, its wax seal smeared in flight's cold. A brief cipher from Sir Davos in Sunspear. Victarion's black ships had vanished entirely. A second fleet, 50 Leviathan-class coggies bearing unrecognizable sigils, had skirted Cape Wrath at dusk 2 nights earlier, heading north with the tailwind. No ports reported them docking. No corpses washed up. They had faded like ghosts into white sea haze. They hide or they home, Tyrion said, folding the parchment like a gambler folding a losing hand. Either we chase, or we wait with throat bared. He eyed Jon. What says the king of many gods? We strengthen the city, Jon answered. Walls, harbors, hearts. If he strikes here, we break him before the hill of Rhaenys. If he slips to the north, Sansa's ravens wing every hour. Winterfell's storerooms remain full. Their watchtowers burn oiled lanterns at dusk and dawn. Tyrion stroked his scar. We remain half-blind. The Iron Bank grows impatient with promises of tariffs tomorrow. They want repayment yesterday. Wroth creditors feed hungry sellsword companies, and hungry sellswords grow fangs. Today, they patrol Pentoshi boulevards for Bugenhagen, the vintner. Tomorrow they cross seas for a debt of their own devising. Mennesau. They'll have their coin, Jon said, though coin felt like sand slipping between cupped hands. March trade begins again when ice recedes. We tax the Lysany spices at double. Guildmasters loathe it, but the people never touch saffron. Tyrion's smile was bleak approval. Saffron may yet buy us swords and mercy. He tilted his head. Has she woken? Jon nodded once. Better night. The healers say the ribs knit straight. Tyrion's shoulders sagged relief. But she'll ride no battles soon. Drogon's wing still stitches blood when he turns too sharply. An enormous dragon grows skittish. 7 gods help any smith who complains of shoeing a mule in sleet, Tyrion muttered. Still, scars lend majesty. Jon stepped away from the brazier. I ride to the sept of the handmaidens at midday. They replaced the last beam. I promised the orphans a feast. Sansa's pantry crew baked honey oat rounds before dawn. Come if you can. Laughter might thaw those fingers. Then shall. Tyrion's grin twitched. A dwarf among soot-faced children? They'll climb me like a flagpole. Delighted. Jon left him then, descending stairs that echoed into emptiness between stone and sky. Outside, sleet stung cheeks, but he refused a cloak for the short walk to Daenerys' convalescent suite, carved in a southern tower that still caught more light than cold. 2 unsullied guards snapped spears to vertical salute. He nodded gently and entered. Warmth met him. Braziers banked high, citrus oil scenting air. Daenerys stood near the casement wrapped in a scarlet robe. Weight braced on the carved sable-wood crutch Gendry had shaped. Her silver hair fell unbound to her waist, and fine new scar tissue mapped one cheek like pink lightning. She traced that scar absently when she turned. Red sky in morning. She mused. A sailor's warning. And a king's, Jon said. She moved to him. They pressed foreheads together a breath, took measure of each other's fatigue. Nightmares? She asked softly. Visions, he corrected. Of tunnels in ice. The same as before the wall fell. Perhaps memory only. She stepped back. The healers will remove my binds tomorrow. They fret over residual bleed, but I'm restless. The half-smile that followed was close to the fierce grin she'd worn astride Drogon above Meereen. I limp better than most men march. Easy victories first, Jon murmured. Walk before you fly. From the next chamber rose a sub-bass rumble. Drogon lay curled upon hot bricks built like a kiln floor, scales twitching in dream. Jon studied the dragon, saw new plates of keratin forming where fire had scorched. Hell take air again, he said, half question. Daenerys' fingers brushed his sleeve. He yearns for it. But he flew into wildfire once and carries that in flesh. He learned caution. Dragons can learn. She met Jon's gaze deliberately. So must kings. Kings learn, he said, but my tutors are storms and swords. And sisters. She smiled. Sansa schools you quiet as snowfall. I owe her thanks. She sends spiced broth nightly. Says northern pepper kills cough better than any associate. Jon chuckled. And she sends you the worst pepper intentionally to cure you faster, so you can ride south and stop making demands on her storage. Daenerys laughed outright. A crack in solemn air. She winced, hand at rib. When pain passed, she sobered. Will you ride north for Winterfell's harvest moon? The lords expect you. If seas remain calm, he answered. But I refuse to leave until Victarion shows his sail or Sansa can spare 2 legions south. He studied her face. Will you come? She shook her head. The people need to see their queen stand the winter inside their walls. And Drogon hates the cold. She turned toward the window again. Yet I will send Rhaegal with you, if he chooses. Dragon warmth might hearten the north. Jon could not hide surprise. Rhaegal heeds you, not me. He heeds ghost memories of his brother who saved you beyond the wall. Her eyes softened. And he loves Sansa's lamb shanks, though he steals them hot from smokehouses. Jon's chuckle iced white in the chill that seeped beneath door gaps. He kissed her brow softly. I'll return by year's turn, I promise. Promises stack higher than snow, she whispered. Just return. Enderol. Through noon into afternoon they prepared for the feast. Sansa arrived cloaked in lilac velvet, hair shining like copper flame against the gray slush day. Tyrion trailed behind her, 2 scribes balancing ledgers and inkhorns, faces blotched by whips of wind. The sept of the handmaidens rose near the Blackwater Gate, a low nave whose roof had caved under damp weight years ago. Now new ash-larch beams gleamed golden against slate shingles. 40 orphan girls and 20 small boys awaited inside, lined in rows along benches scrubbed clean enough to reflect torchlight. Jon helped Daenerys across the icy threshold. Children's eyes widened at her cane but wider still at her smile. She addressed them not as a queen, but as one once homeless. I stood once in rags outside a palace and prayed for food, she told them. You stand inside a palace of your own making. She gestured to the beams. These timbers rose by your city's hands, and will shelter you long after kings and queens become stories. She broke a round of honey oat bread, offered half to the littlest girl in the front. The child took, nibbling shyly. The feast unrolled. Broth of onions and marrow bone. Trencher loaves filled with mashed beans and salted ham. Sweet whirled, cream churned from goat's milk, spiced with nutmeg. The children ate with wide-eyed hunger, and laughter echoed under the new roof. Jon sat at a crude trestle with Sansa beside him. She whispered advice in his ear each time a guild elder approached to bend knee. 3 quick facts about the man's trade. 1 compliment to offer his children. Jon dispensed exactly those lines, each elder left glowing. Daenerys conversed with an older orphan, a boy of 12 missing 2 fingers from frostbite. He had taken to carving whistles from driftwood. She placed an order for 50 whistles bearing dragon shapes, would pay 1 silver stag each, and supply the wood herself. When she explained this was to teach the city's watch to signal by distinct tones in fog, the boy blinked as though handed the moon. The festivities were still cresting when a runner burst through the nave doors, boots clapping stone, breath ghost pale. "Ships," he gasped. Black sails massed off black water rush. No colors. Closing fast. And no. Jon rose at once. Every bench creaked as knights reached for non-existent hilts. Outside, sleet angled sideways on a raw wind. Jon handed Daenerys to Sansa, then strode into the gale. On the seawall he found Sir Tolwyn and 2 scouts staring through rain-lensed spyglasses. Far out, near smudge of the horizon, a dark belt sliced foam. Maybe 20, maybe 30 hulls. No patterns matched known banners. Their oars beat a rhythm that hammered through wind. "Signal beacon," Jon ordered. Tolwyn snapped flames to an oil-soaked basket. White smoke spiraled. Within an hour, the ships resolved. A mixed breed. Galleasses with high-sloped prows, corsairs wide and shallow. A monstrous dromond at centerline mounting a tall mast, shaped like a spine of vertebrae. No kraken banners flew, but the dromond's deck bore racks of copper tubes angled forward. Similar to Syrio fog spewers Gendry had described from Assaria, but bigger. Jon's gut chilled. Davos had not yet returned. Tyrell war dromonds were refitting masts after the stepstones. Asha's nearest squadron lay moored inside harbor, still under repair. They could sortie in half an hour, but Jon would hold them defensive. This unknown fleet might carry ambassadors, smugglers, or wildfire. Tyrion joined him. Hair plastered wet. 7 hells. "That mast looks like a demon's spine," the dwarf muttered. Jon watched the lead ship pivot 90 degrees against wind, revealing precision oar work. "No storm-blown traders," he said. "Orders. Close harbor chain, but keep the mouth partially open." Deception. Asha's hulls to shadow under the wall. Crossbows on parapets. No fire arrows unless they loose first. Bah. Tyrion limped up a crenal. "I'll send the chain crews." He squinted. "I see no scorpions on their decks." "Copper tubes," Jon repeated. "Might be scorpions of smoke." Tyrion grimaced. "Or flame." Messenger ravens lifted. Drums thundered along the curtain walls. Gates slammed. Shops shuttered. Yet King's Landing had practiced this drill many times since Euron Greyjoy's first terror. People ducked into cellars. Watch captains barred alleys. Sept bells knelled caution, not panic. Within 15 minutes, a hush deeper than snowfall blanketed every tier. The unknown fleet crossed the outer marker buoys. Slowed, and raised a white pennon, blank except for a circle of 7 radiating lines. Nothing Jon recognized. He beckoned Sir Tolwyn. "Row me out." 1 skiff. 6 oars, white flag. Tolwyn protested but obeyed. They launched under arrow cover. Jon stood in the bow, hair plastered. The sea churned gray. Sleet needled eyes. As they approached the dromond's starboard, a hatch clanged open. A ladder clattered down. Tolwyn slowed. Jon climbed before any could refuse. Deck planks were fresh-cut cedar. Brass fittings gleamed. No sailors greeted him. Only a lone figure wrapped in dark robes sewn with hammered bronze plates shaped like ancient runes. A mask covered the face. Green jade carved into an eagle head. From its eyes dripped emerald rainwater. "Who commands?" Jon demanded. The figure's voice was fluted through tubes, genderless. "We come for treaty. Aegon Targaryen VI. I grant no treaty without name. I am he who walks between waters," said the mask. "Servant of the Triad of Korth. These ships carry silks, spice, and 3,000 lancers to garrison your walls against kraken or false prophets." "Then?" Jon frowned. Korth had never sent more than envoys with incense. Their triarchs bickered worse than Pentashi. "Karth helps only for coin, or for prophecy," the mask answered. The horn of winter shall sound soon, breaking more than ice. Qarth would stand beneath the banner that halts endless night. Jon felt lungs tighten. Prove your intention. Send 2 ships of spice and half your lancers ashore now. The rest anchor beyond chain until I speak with your triarch by glass candle. Now. Agreed. The mask bowed, cloak shivering like scales. Our pledge stands at sunset. Break pledge and dragons answer, Jon said. Understood. He descended ladder, skiff backed water. Once safe beyond missile range, Jon signaled the watchers. Chain lifted. 2 corsairs slipped through, oars feathering. The chain lowered again. Back on the seawall, Tyrion practically vibrated. Glass candle? You trust Corthine warlocks more than I trust my own ladder. I trust leverage, Jon said. Qarth will honor audience if they seek my harbor. He turned then to see Daenerys leaning on her crutch at archway's foot, cloak billowing, unsullied flanking. Fury flared in her eyes. You sail to treat pirates but leave me in ignorance. She demanded. I sailed to assess unknown threat, he countered softly. No time to rouse the court. No time or no trust. She limped closer. Rain dripped down the scar on her cheek. Jon opened palms. I trust you above all, but you cannot board ladders yet. Her jaw clenched. Yet you risked arrows and green fire. Because that is my duty, he said. If a king hides behind walls, he teaches others to do the same. And a queen heals so she might ride again. Steel slid behind her eyes. Then it dimmed. She nodded tight. We speak tonight. He offered his arm. She accepted, though her grip trembled not from cold, but restraint. And now, word of Qarth's pledge spread like lantern light. By nightfall, merchants dared hope the triarchs would reopen Jade Sea routes long closed, and the Goldsmiths Guild bet half its vaults on saffron futures, skyrocketing. But in the candlelit map room, the mood remained storm-laden. The triad of Qarth fractured last I dealt with them, Tyrion argued, pacing. One faction worships the undying, another finances slavers along Basilisk Isles, a third sells purple dye and poisons. What if this, he who walks belongs to the worst? Then we hold 2 corsairs and 1,500 of their men as sureties, Jon replied. If treachery, we sink the rest with scorpions. Sansa sat by the hearth, ankle hooked over knee, expression thoughtful. What if they bring plague? Qarthine ports brew fevers that bleed from eyes. Now. Sam, newly returned from Old Town with satchels of scrolls, raised a hand. We can quarantine the corsairs on Maiden's Isle and test for flux. The archmaesters taught a decoction of white willow bark and goat's rue that halts most southern fevers. He cleared his throat, blushing when all eyes shifted. If that fails, fire cleanses. Daenerys remained near the window, silent. Her gaze tracked sparks flung from chimneys across the city. Jon watched her, uneasy. When the council wound down, she limped to exit without comment. He followed. In her chamber, she sank onto a cushioned bench. You did right to parley. She said at last. But you must tell me every threat. No walls between us. There are no walls, he said, kneeling. Only storms we face from different sides. Then face them together. She leaned, forehead brushing his. I dreamed of our son last night. Jon froze. She smiled at his shock. A dream, nothing more. But he flew on a small dragon, scales of white gold. He called you father in the old tongue, and the world did not burn. Hope flared so bright, it hurt. Dreams guide or mislead, he whispered. True. She placed his hand over her still flat belly. But I dare hope again. He kissed her gently. Then we guard that hope. And now. For a fortnight, Qarth's corsairs behaved, unloading spice and linens onto Maiden's Isle, while their lancers drilled under snow flurries, like crimson phantoms on white field. Maesters tested them for flux. 2 fevers found. Quarantined instantly. Both men survived. Negotiations by a glass candle progressed, a flickering green light dancing in a basalt mirror. While a triarch shrouded in perfumed mists haggled over port duties, Tyrion handled the numbers, Jon the oaths. On the 14th night, treaty parchment was inked. Qarth gained a quarter-mile of trade wharf, 5-year exemption from saffron tariffs, and naming rights on a new public bathhouse. In return, they pledged 50 mixed ships under king's banners and full access to their cinnamon route for crown merchants. It was, Tyrion admitted through a stunned laugh, a better deal than any Westerosi master of coin had struck in living memory. Joy proved brittle. 2 dawns later, corpses floated in the harbor. Qarthine lancers, throats slit, chests opened. Braided cords bound their wrists. A kraken carved into their backs, with a heated brand marked culprit. The city reeled. Victarion had struck within chained gates. Jon called immediate muster. Patrols combed sewers. Unsullied doubled watch. Asha's Ironborn, grudgingly sworn now, helped inspect hull bottoms for saboteurs. But the killer slipped ghost-like. Tension thickened. Qarth's commanders demanded vengeance or threatened to sail. Tyrion nearly wept at thought of lost cinnamon. Sansa convened the smallfolk priests, preaching unity against shadows born of fear. She organized candlelight vigils at each district sept. The flames warded gloom, and songs rose. Yet each night more corpses surfaced. Sailors, fishers, a Tyroshi tailor. All bore the same cord, the same kraken brand. Daenerys, still on cane but walking faster, visited the morgue where Sam studied wounds. She noted the meticulous cuts, no torn flesh, no botched slices. A single blade, curved inward. Sam hypothesized. Perhaps a Q-Hoin, the Ironborn's innermost hearthblade. He glanced at her. Ser Barristan once said, only priest knights of the drowned god carried those today. Jon ordered watchers posted at every shrine to the storm god near the docks. That night they caught a gaunt woman sprinkling dark oil across tide pools. Under knife point, she confessed the oil's origin. Barrels smuggled from a hulk anchored north of Swordfish Point. Jon's blood hammered. Victarion had found harbor, hidden in plain night. He and Tolwyn led 3 longboats around the headland under moonless sky. They came upon the hulk, a derelict, sails tattered, hull pocked by barnacles. Jon's men clambered silent, torches unlit. The deck stank of tallow and rot. Below, lanterns guttered in a cabin where prayer murmurs rose. Jon signaled, breach. They burst in upon a tableau of horror. 6 men and women knelt before a low pulpit of driftwood. Behind it, a giant shape loomed. Iron plate rusted black, helm forged like a kraken's skull. Victarion Greyjoy. Beside him a woman in red robes with a high steel collar held a curved blade glowing orange, heated in brazier coals. A bound sailor lay across the altar, mouth stuffed with rag. Victarion's helm tilted. Deep voice boomed. The Wolf King sends pups to my den. He lifted a warhammer in one hand. Jon advanced, long-claw glassy, in lantern glare. Release him. But the drowned god thirsts. Victarion snarled. And the Red One hungers. He nodded to the woman. She smiled serenely, pressing blade to the victim's breast. Blood hissed against steel. The prisoner thrashed. Tolwyn loosed an arrow. Swift. Sure. It struck Victarion's pauldron. Skittered. The kraken moved, deceptively swift, hammer rising. Jon met him, Valyrian steel clanging against iron. Sparks flew. The cabin rang. The Red Woman chanted. Green shadows snaked along walls. Tolwyn's second arrow pierced her forearm. She shrieked. The glowing blade fell. Jon locked swords with Victarion, felt raw strength like a mast in storm. But the helm hindered the kraken's vision. Jon ducked, slid, slashed upward at armpit joint. Iron rent, dot. Hot blood sprayed. Victarion howled, wheeled hammer sidewise. Jon's spalder cracked. Numbness burst down his arm. He rolled under another swing, came up stabbing. Blade punched through mail between greave and cuisse. severing hamstring. Victarion crashed to one knee. Still, the Kraken grabbed Yon's throat with mailed fist. Breath choked. Jon hammered pommel into Helm's visor. Metal dented. Fingers slackened. Longclaw punched again. Ribs this time. Victarion toppled backward against altar, toppling oil lamp. Fire spilled. Tolwyn hauled the victim away. Unsullied spears pinned the red woman. Jon staggered from smoke. Flames licked crates of incense. Timbers popped. They dragged Greyjoy, unconscious but alive, to the deck. Dawn pinked horizon as city watch horns signaled success. Victarion, shackled, was rowed through chain gates under hush so deep even gulls seemed cowed. The red woman vanished en route. Chains found hanging overboard. A slick of blood but no body. Some swore she dissolved into sea foam. Others murmured sorcery. Jon feared worse, that she fled to fan new fires. In the throne room, still scaffolded, Victarion Greyjoy faced trial before assembled lords, priests, and guildmasters. He mocked their stone-thrown justice, until Jon stepped forward, sword bare. "By right of battle," Jon declared, "I stripped you." He slammed Greyjoy's own Kraken helm onto the cracked marble floor. It rang deeper than any bell. "For murder of innocents, I sentence you to die." Victarion spat blood. "Kill me and I feast with the drowned god, while tides swallow your paper city. A god who demands murder will feast on you alone." Jon lifted the helm again. "Ironborn shall sail under banners of honor, or not at all. The choice is theirs." Nendarwal. He offered helm to Asha, who had arrived bruised but alive. She took it, gaze unreadable. Then she knelt. "I pledge my blades and ships to the king who spared my folk from my brother's madness." The hall burst applause. Harsh, uncertain at first, then roiling. Jon exhaled. Victarion was dragged away to cells far below. The city's fear lessened, but new doubt sprouted. The red sorceress. The brand of green fire. And shall. Winter crept. Snow layered ramparts twice Jon's height. Grain stores drained slower now thanks to Karth trade, yet every loaf felt like a gambled future. In the north, White Harbor sent word of thickening ice choking shipyards. Swan flights failed to migrate. Deer wolves howled in daylight. Old Nan's tales walked again. One midnight, Sam burst into Jon's solar. Cheeks windburned. "White walkers," he gasped. Jon froze. But Sam clarified. A rumor spreading in villages north of Last Hearth. Blue-eyed whites stalking sheepfolds. He presented drawing by a farm girl. Pale figure. Sword of frost. No ravens confirmed, yet dread pulsed. Jon dispatched ravens to Castle Black. Its skeleton crew of wildlings and knights watch remnants. They reported heavy snowfall. No undead. But a scout vanished west of the Frostfangs. Tracks ended at a crevasse. Exhaling cold, so fierce water vapor crystallized midair. Jon felt the old terror stir. He called Maester Davin, demanded updates on dragonglass stockpiles. They had a wagon load only. Gendry forged spearheads each night, but ore was scarce. He asked Daenerys if Rhaegal might fly to Dragonstone for remaining cash. She agreed, though flying winter skies north worried her. While Rhaegal prepared, the Red Woman struck again. One early morn the great Sept's rebuild caught fire. Green flames roaring through scaffolds. Bells pealed. Buckets flew. The blaze smothered quick, yet 3 workers died in lurid light. Their bodies bore the Kraken brand carved after death. Next night, a Corthine officer vanished from his bunk. Only charred footprints remained leading to the water. Jon visited the prison underbelly. Victarion chained to wall laughed when told. "She bears the true light," he croaked. "Fire in green. Fire in blood. When the moon maid bleeds its last, the waves will eat your bones." Jon struck him behind ear to silence ravings. In council, he posted triple watch at docks, offered gold for sorceress's head, and banned gatherings after dusk. Tension climbed like frost up vines. Amid this, Daenerys discovered she was with child. A healer confirmed. The babe quickened strong. Joy ignited those close but bred new worry. Assassins, prophecies of the stallion who mounts the world, Corthine warlocks and their price. Jon barred peers and fish from her table unless Sam's alchemists tested each bite. Guards ringed her chambers day and night. Ghost slept at her threshold, snarling at any footfall. In second moon of her pregnancy, the Red Woman attempted infiltration disguised as a washerwoman. Ghost tore cloth mask, revealing tattooed glyphs across her face. She escaped in a blast of green fire that charred 2 guards. Rage filled Jon. He set bounty at 100 gold stags. Tyrion suggested hunting her with faceless assassins. Jon refused bloodcoin. Instead, he invited every temple, R'hllor faith, even those worshipping the many-faced god, to hold joint night vigils, torches ablaze across the city, denying shadows ground to hide. On winter solstice, north wind stilled. Stars shone, brittle and myriad, reflecting in the bay like a second sky. Jon climbed the Maidenvault Tower with Daenerys. She wore furs, belly beginning to swell. They leaned upon parapet. Far below, torch grids patterned streets. Bells chimed quarter hour. Harbor beacons flared. "We live still," she said softly. "We live," he answered. He laid hand over her abdomen. The child kicked, sudden and strong. Tears surprised him. "Naomi?" she asked. He swallowed. "Lyanna if a girl. Jaehaerys if a boy." She smiled. "Or both. Twins run in Targaryen line." He laughed, dizzy at thought. An arrow hissed. Ghost leapt, jaws clamping shaft mid-flight. Wood shattered. Guards shouted. 2 shapes fled over adjoining roof up the slope. Jon vaulted battlements, hit tiles, rolled. Tallwind's whistle shrilled. Archers knocked. Shapes vanished into alley. Jon returned breathless. Daenerys unharmed, Ghost panting, arrow in splinters. From a rooftop crate they found crossbow, bolts tipped in green resin. The resin matched wildfire residues. The Red Woman's hand again. Fever gripped the city. Tyrion demanded Jon move Daenerys to Dragonstone. She refused. Sansa suggested decoys. Daenerys agreed. Had seamstresses craft gowns for ladies of similar stature. Arranged random walks through courtyards to mask her path. Still nights grew darker. The sky cracked with shimmering lights. Aurora seldom seen so far south. Maesters whispered of tears in the firmament. Samwell foretold comet, but saw none. Birds flew circles then dropped dead, their blood crystallizing. Rhaegal returned with dragonglass just as Castle Black sent urgent raven. Shapes moving beyond haunted forest. Fires of blue glimpsed in distance. No men missing but ravens refusing to fly that way. Jon read and felt memory of black blades sliding through his heart at Hardhome. Shuddered. He summoned council under full moon. Decision. He would ride north at first thaw with Rhaegal and 500 Corthine lancers, plus Tolwyn's knights, deposit dragonglass. Build forges. Daenerys insisted she accompany. Sam and healers forbade. She wept furious tears, but the babe's health overruled. The city murmured, king departing again. But their queen remained. And so, the pattern reversed. Ice to north, fire to south. Victarion executed at dawn before departure, brought from cell under heavy guard. He spat sea brine despite iron gag. When blade fell, the sky above the block turned briefly green, as if northern lights mirrored in morning. Priestesses wailed. Joan's spine crawled. He ordered body cremated outside city, ashes cast deep in black water. The Kraken helm he melted, recast into sewer gates shaped like 7-pointed stars, a reminder that strength turned to sewage once misused. On a biting morning weeks later, the expedition assembled. Rhaegal's shadow spanning half the King's Road, lancers in lacquered scarlet, Stark riders in white bearskins. Jon kissed Daenerys goodbye under blossoming tears and frost. "Return to me with spring," she whispered. He pressed her swollen belly. "Spring will follow." They rode. City walls dwindled, torches dimming behind. Ahead, snowfields unrolled blank as parchment, awaiting letters written in steel and flame. Jon glanced skyward. Rhaegal soared high, wings carving clouds, breath steaming jade. In that savage beauty, he glimpsed the dream of their unborn child astride a white gold dragon, laughter scattering shadows. Winter laid its hand on his shoulder. Did he? He tightened cloak, spurred horse, and rode into the heart of it, knowing hope sometimes rode alongside fear, and no crown weighed heavier than the promise made to those yet unborn. Narwand. Far south in King's Landing, night thickened around the Red Keep. Daenerys stood upon the balcony cradling warm tea. Ghost watched from threshold. Below, flames ringed septs. Torches crowned towers. Yet a single alley remained unlit. A thread of darkness weaving up toward the keep like a silent serpent. From that dark came the Red Woman. Boots silent, scars glowing green beneath hood. She carried no blade tonight, only a small vial cupped in gloved hands. Within swirled liquid, starless and bright as obsidian yet fluid as dusk. She whispered to it, lips cracking, "Heart of shadow, drink the light." She murmured in tongue older than Valyria, "When the moon bleeds, drink the dragon's flame." She tilted vial. Droplets hissed onto cobbles, sank through cracks, vanished. Beneath the city, where catacombs of dragon bones lay dusted by ages, something stirred awake. A tremor none heard but rats who scattered squealing. The Red Woman smiled. "Begin." She said to darkness, then drew her cloak and melted into Warren Maze. Above, Daenerys felt a shiver ripple stone beneath her bare feet. She clutched belly. "Easy," she whispered to Babe. Yet her eyes sought stars and found them flickering, as if wind carried sudden ash between her and heaven. She stepped back inside. Ghost growled low. The Queen closed shutters. Behind them, wooden slats thumped like a warning drum. The night pressed close, holding its breath. And Dandani show. North of the neck, Jon's column marched over iced causeway where reeds rattled like bones. Snow clouds bruised the dusk. White Harbor lieutenants greeted them, guiding to granaries hollowed to feed armies. People lined roads, tossing pine sprigs, chanting King in the North, though Jon shook his head. "King of 7, not 1, he told them. Yet they cheered more. In the castle of Newcastle Black, they found Tormund Giantsbane hale but worried. "Shadows in woods," he told Jon by roaring hearth. "Not dead ones, but watchers. Bear-like, tall skin pale like fish belly." He spat. "I never feared walking man, but these move like they forgot how bone works." Jon studied the wildling's face. "Not white walkers." Tormund shook head. "Eyes red, not blue. Breath steam black. I'll slash one soon, you see." Jon dispatched ranger parties. Ghost padded among them. Rhaegal circled overhead, yet the watchers rarely showed themselves. At dusk, they left twisted piles of branches, shaped like men pierced by spears of ice. A message. None gleamed. Jon melted dragonglass in forges, armed 500 spears. Yet nights deepened, cold sharpened. Ravens refused roosts, flocking south. Wolves howled long, mournful dirges. One dawn, Ghost bolted from camp chasing scent. Jon followed with Tolwyn. They found a clearing where snow lay undisturbed, except a ring of stones, inside which a single infant cried. A northern farm babe swaddled in furs. Around ring lay footprints leading nowhere. Jon lifted the child. Its eyes were violet. He carried Babe to camp. Sam examined, found no mark. Yet a folded parchment tucked in swaddling bore 3 symbols. A kraken, a red flame, and a dragon skull split. Message clear. The Red Woman reached even here. The babe might be bait or boon. Jon's heart thrashed. He named the child Storm and assigned 6 Carthene nurses. Night fell. Wolves howled again, Jon took no sleep. He walked ramparts built of freshly quarried ice blocks, Longclaw on back. Over ridge he gazed where sky met land, saw faint aurora pulsing green. Under its glow, a column advanced. Wraith forms, tattered black, carrying banners of trees flayed red. Old horrors returned. Bolton flayers, or specters, either soul. Chilled. Rangers returned bloodied, reporting the Watchers attacked with whips of frozen sinew. Wounds frostbit instantly. Dragon glass killed them, but corpses melted to water smelling of brine. Jon shuddered. The Red Woman's art, mixing sea and shadow. Deep in his bones he felt a warning older than fear. Dawn may not come if this occult vengeance marched unchecked. He penned Raven to Daenerys. Shadows merge, sea, fire, ice. Protect the babe. If battle fails, I fly south with what remains. He read it thrice, sealed, tied to Rhaegal's foot. The dragon launched, beating into snow sky. Jon watched until lost among clouds vined with cold lightning. Then he donned fur, stepped to parapet, and addressed garrison. "We face no foe of flesh alone," he said, voice steadier than heartbeat. "We face hate given form, but we hold light older than hate, the living fire within us. We hold each other." He raised dragon-glass spear. "We hold until dawn returns, or we are the dawn." A roar answered. Wildlings, lancers, watchmen alike. They ringed torches along wall. Flames snapped, snow hissed. In flickering glow, Jon saw men's eyes. Fear, yes, but courage stoked by his own. He felt weight of crown even here, unseen inside helm, and accepted its cold. Below, forest rustled with unseen feet, circling their palisades. The night carried smell of brine and burnt cedar. Jon passed a hand over wooden direwolf at his neck, breathed once, and settled into watch. And no. In King's Landing the city stirred uneasy at rumors of infant found. Daenerys barred gossip at court, but whispers seeped. The Red Woman's serpent path threaded ever closer. 3 septas vanished drawing water from well. Their habits found adrift below sewer grate. Tyrion consulted old records. Wildfire caches remain deeper than we thought. He told Daenerys in gloom of Raven Tower. Hidden since Aerys. Qyburn never unearthed them all. If she finds one, Daenerys laid hand on her belly. We must map every tunnel. She donned cloak, ignoring Sam's pleas. With Grey Worm and a lantern crew, she descended levels, long sealed. Dust-choked passages opened into caverns crowded by dragon bones, ancient and soot-dark. Echoes magnified every drip. They found shattered casks of pitch, but no wildfire, emptied recently. Prints of bare feet led deeper. Gray-green residue smeared walls. At dead end, they found sigil carved, a moon pierced by trident. Daenerys frowned. "What is this?" Sam whispered. "Frightful. Some say it marks worship of the Leviathan below, a myth older than drowned god." Daenerys burned the carving with torch, yet residue flared green before extinguishing. "She forges new fire here," the queen murmured. Fire mixed with deep sea. Above ground, Tyrion plotted tunnels, set iron grates. But one night, an explosion sheared a storehouse near the king's gate. No wildfire, but saltwater geyser laced with oily flame. 12 died. Daenerys wept, rage simmering. She called out the Red Woman by name unknown, daring her to face dragonfire. Silence answered. "No." North, dawn revealed enemy at palisade. Pale giants thrice man-height, flesh translucent, veins black. They wielded coral tridents rhymed in frost. With them came second rank. Humans living wearing kraken cloaks, eyes glazed green. Victarians fanatics. Behind marched wraiths of ice. Trumpets sounded. Jon stood at gate. Torment flexed. Tolwyn recited a vow. Quarthine lancers raised curved sabers. Drums beat. Arrows loosed first. Dragon glass tips shattered giants' translucent skin. but each arrow consumed itself in white fire that burned shaft to ash. Jon cursed. He signaled. Flamethrowers. Gendry's sulfur bellows hissed jets of red flame. Giants roared, staggered back scorched. The living zealots charged regardless, chanting. Dragon glass spears felled them. Their blood steamed brackish. Then the ice wraiths advanced. Silence incarnate. Jon saw blue motes in their hollows. Longclaw shone pale. He leaped from rampart, landed inside chaos. Steel met frost. Sword screamed. Dragonglass spear shattered Wraith's head. Shards became snow. Battle raged hours. Snow churned red. At twilight Wraiths withdrew. Giants limped off. Jon counted dead. 43. Among them, the child nurses slaughtered. Cradle empty. Storm stolen. That night, fires burned funeral pyres. Jon's sorrow hardened. He climbed north wall, whistled. Rhaegal landed. Jon saddled, rose into frigid sky following tracks glimpsed by ghost southwest towards sea. He found a cove where ice split to reveal black water. At its center floated a barge bearing stone altar. The Red Woman stood, child in arms, chanting. Green aurora pulsed overhead. Jon dove Rhaegal to. Flame roared. She raised vial. Green shield blossomed. Fire parted. Jon landed on altar, drew long clawed dot. "Give me the babe," he growled. She smiled. "The child of Dragon Wolf, purified in salt, will open the dark sea. The Leviathan wakes." He lunged. She vanished in spray of burning droplets. An apparition? She reappeared behind pillar, dashed vial onto altar. Stone cracked. Water glowed deep emerald. Jon struck. Her blade met. Steel screeched. She hissed incantation. Tide rose, spiraling. Jon's sight stormed from her grip as Ghost leapt from Dragon's back, fangs tearing her forearm. She shrieked. Aura flickered. Longclaw severed vial hand. Blood spurted black. She laughed, stepped into rising column of green-lit foam, and disappeared. Rhaegal's roar shattered water column. Glow faded. Tide receded. Jon held crying babe. Heart pounding. He mounted. Dragon rose into night. Back at Palisade, cheers met return. Jon placed child in Sam's arms. "Protect him." Sam nodded. Tears. Snow persisted, but Wraith forces receded. Scouts later found half-giant corpses gnawed, as if Leviathan turned upon them. Jon suspected broken ritual, disrupted synergy of sea fire ice. He penned Raven to Daenerys. Storm saved. Threat averted for now. Coming spring, I return. No. Daenerys received message in throne room amid repairs. She wept with relief. Tyrion popped corked wine. Qartheen envoys danced. But under city, one wildfire cache remained, vial intact. Glowing green in darkness awaiting touch. And across blue winter sky, Rhaegal carried king and child south. Wings humming promise and warning. Their saga far from done. Daenerys touched her own belly, life stirring. She whispered to unborn, to storm, to Jon across sky. "We will be the dawn." Above, first star of evening flickered through thinning clouds, as if nodding. And the world waited, balanced on edge of winter and hope, while dragons and wolves carved the next chapter in breath, and blood, and flame.